always be careful because you can really stab the crap out of your fingers with these picks if you're not careful. Yo, like I just did. Son of a... Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take apart this cylinder that goes to the 440B. This is one of the actual lift cylinders for the arms. It has two of these long skinny ones, and it has a little short fatter one that actually does a bucket curl, just a single cylinder in the center. So kind of what we need to have is wire brush for cleaning the gunk off, these little tools for installing the seals. These are actually the gland nut and stuff for the other one I've already tore apart. And of course you'll need the actual seal kits, which I have a place in Denton that I just take all these pieces to, and then they measure them out and decide whether they're metric or standard, and they get me all the seals I need to rebuild them. Depending on what the cylinders are, usually it runs about 50 to, well, I'm gonna say 40 to 60 dollars for the parts to rebuild it, and then of course my labor, I take them apart and do all that. Another thing you're gonna need is a bucket that we can hang on there to catch oil, because there's probably still some oil in this cylinder. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take this off, and I believe it just clips on there. Yeah, we're gonna take that line off. I actually need to make another one of them to where both my lines are at the back like this one, because I don't think my other cylinder has that on it, and if it did, I probably threw it away like a big dummy. Which, I mean, I could get by putting the line down here, just be a longer line. It's not that big of a deal, it's not super crucial, but whatever I do on one side I need to do the other, where all the lines are the same length. And if it's like the other one, I had a heck of a time getting this off. Now people say, oh, don't use a pipe wrench on them. You really shouldn't, but I don't have a spanner wrench to fit this. I could make one, but I believe I did that on the last one and ended up just bending it. It was so tight, and I don't want to put heat on it. I'll get it off one way or the other. Problem is, I don't want to really clamp down on it in this vise and end up bending the barrel. So what I have done in the past is clamp this, or even put a pin in it and shove it through the hole and run the cylinder through here, where all the stress is right here on the end, and the cylinder more or less is just keeping this from flopping up and down. So for starters, let's clean this up, and we'll get a pipe wrench and put it on there and just see if it happens to crack loose. It might, but I'm thinking it probably won't. You can see it's not real bad up here. It's just where that wiper seal's been leaking. We're just trying to keep any more crud from getting in it than we have to. One thing I didn't get. And that's already loose. I might have already loosened that in the other video. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I did, because I think I just stuck it on there and hand tightened it so I didn't lose it. Too bad I didn't do that with the other one. I had a feeling it was going to be really, really tight. So, again, we just want to get a grip on it. We don't want to really clamp down on that. And then I've run a pin through here to hold it, and then we can put some pressure on this. But we need to get underneath and pull up, because if I try to pull this way, it's just going to try to bend the cylinder down. There we go. Alright, it has suction on it, so that tells me that fitting on the other end is plugged. Yep. And it's pulling a vacuum on it. Let's see. Right now. No, baby, we can't go over there right now. They got company. No more suction. A lot of trash in that cylinder though. It really don't look bad in there. Probably can't see all the way in, but most of it's still pretty clean. Which we will clean it out better later. Now we've got to get this nut off so we can get that off and this off. looks real good considering. You see those seals are a little chewed up. They'd probably be fine, but I bet you it's the ones inside of here. As loose as that is, you'll see when I get it off what I'm talking about. And even though this is a lock nut on here, when we put this back together, we're going to use red Loctite to make sure it don't come apart, because I have rebuilt a few of these cylinders where the nut either came off or the whole end of this snapped off, and then there was nothing. It was almost impossible to get this out. You can use compressed air and blow it out, but better not have anybody standing in the path of it, that's for sure. And see, that's just at that seal. We'll go hit that with a wire brush and clean it up. This looks fine. And see, the wiper's cracked and dried up. I can see the cracks on the other one down in there. Pretty rough shape. Let's get this thing out of the vise. It's ready to go. Picks and get them out. I should have had these in the list of tools we was going to need, but I didn't. Oh yeah. You can see how crumbly that is. Those are probably the original seals in these cylinders, which is probably another reason they were so hard to get out. Well, hard to get the glands out. That one's actually still kind of rubbery-ish. That felt good. Smacked right in the eye. And I don't know if you know it, but a lot of these hydraulic cylinders, they do not use a standard pipe thread. If you look at that, they have a slope on one side and they're flat on the other. I forgot what the name of that type of thread is, but it's designed for hydraulic cylinders. I mean, and some of them have like a point and a point. Some are point on this side, flat on this side. Some are flat, point at flat, angle on this side and flat on that. I mean, there's 2 or 3 different styles that they use, maybe even more, I don't know. But I used to rebuild cylinders and motors and stuff years ago, and I even worked for a guy. We made our own hydraulic cylinders. We machined these out. If somebody had one that was busted up, we could practically build them a cylinder from scratch. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to get these off. And the backup washer goes towards the end of the cylinder. You can see how filthy that is. Really don't want to just throw this on the grinder and the wire wheel, because this is aluminum and it'll chew it up fairly quickly. Get our new parts. Match them up. That's the correct backup washer. That's the correct O-ring, which this one's square now. So remember, backup washer went towards the end of the cylinder. There's that. Now here's the other two. This is the wiper that goes on the outside, and this is the seal that goes on the inside, and that's where that little special tool comes in handy. So let's verify this is going to fit over that rod good. Yep, perfect snug fit. Same with this one. Perfect snug fit. Now you got to remember, when this is on here, you want, ooh, don't fall in that bucket of old oil. You want this seal where the opening is facing the oil, so it's going to try to expand it as it pushes this. If you have it the other way, it could try to bypass. And well, maybe now you can see. You want this seal where the opening is facing the fluid, because when it's in here and you put hydraulic pressure, if you have it backwards, it could try to bypass and go past here, and then you got a leak. So since we're doing this, the opening needs to go that way, down in that hole. And that's where this little tool comes in handy, because it turns it inside out if it does it right, so that you can fit it down in the hole. And sometimes you gotta play around with them. There you go. Come on out of there, you. And voila, it's in. You can do it by hand, but it is a royal pain in the butt, and a lot of times you end up messing up you'll cut the seal. Now this one we're just going to try doing it by hand, because I think it'll go in by hand. If I drop that thing one more time. No, we're going to use a tool on that one also. Fit. Yeah, I don't want to force that and mess it up. And there you go. There's them. Now we gotta get this off. And that is this kit. It's probably got an O-ring under this. And always be careful, because you can really stab the crap out of your fingers with these picks if you're not careful. Yo, like I just did. Son of a gun. There. Break that. And then there's an O-ring down on the bottom. Get that out. Clean that out. Well, I'm going to be bleeding now. It's always nice to show an example of what can happen when you do this. Well, there's no hole in my thumb right now, so that's good. And these seals can be a little tricky because they're kind of made out of a plastic. So sometimes when you stretch them to get them on here, they stay stretched. What I usually do is put a hose clamp on it and kind of smash it back down on there. We'll put the O-ring on first. I'm going to start working this on. And this is where I like to use this pick, but carefully get under it. If you have to, take it back off. That way it's got that nice edge and not the point that it's going off of. And be careful, don't stick the point down in there where the O-ring is and bust that. Boom, there you go. See, it's a little stretched out, but I think that'll work. Okay. Now we can put the rod and stuff back together. Y'all remember how it goes? This one has to go on first, but before I put it on there, we're going to coat it with grease. And I've been doing it like that for years. That's what I was taught. Wheel bearing grease, anything. I think I've got some assembly lube. We'll put that on there. That took a little while to find. Now you gotta gently put this on there. You gotta put it on the right way, because you don't want to cut a seal. And there we go. And as long as you don't see any little pieces of black plastic on there, you know you didn't cut the seal. Well, most of the time, you know that. Lube up the O-rings on here. Wipe off all this extra. Slide that down. Goes on next. Goes on next, the pipe. That on there. Get all this stuff off. Remember how that went? If you forget, there's the marks of the nut. And always double check, make sure there ain't an O-ring in here. Sometimes there is, sometimes they even have an O-ring on here that it seals against. This has neither. Now we're going to spray this off so there's any oily residue comes off along with the nut. Red Loctite. Don't take much. We might have to take this off again someday. Hopefully not. Get our crescent wrench and snug that up real good. You could do this with an impact, it doesn't matter. Since that's aluminum, I really don't want to end up crushing it and maybe even making it swell. See, all this time, it's letting that plastic seal go back, kind of retract to where it should be. Now we got to make sure the barrel of the cylinder is cleaned out. And I know I'm going to have a bunch of guys be like, oh, you need to run a hone down. No, I don't need to run nothing down in it because I don't want to make it a bigger diameter than what it actually is. Bye-bye. What we are going to do though, blow down in that fitting. Taking it out in case there's any crud down in there, don't get blown down into the cylinder later and tear up our seals we just put in it. And now we're going to blow it out real good. Smell that good old compressed air. Light, make sure there ain't no chunks left behind. I still see a few down in there, so we'll swab it out. To do that is we're going to pack a little bit of this down in there. Uh-oh. Looking again, and I don't see nothing. So, now we're ready to assemble it back onto the cylinder. We'll just do everything in reverse. But what we need to do, put a little more assembly lube on this. Or a lot more, I should say. Because if this one gets cut, it's definitely just going to bypass, and the cylinder's not going to pick nothing up. There we go. Now we can put this back in the vise like we had it. I had to take these off with a chisel before where it pretty much ruined them. It's funny, this old rusty, trusty pipe wrench is what it finally took to get that thing off. And you do not want to put Loctite on these threads. Because you saw how hard it was to get it off to begin with. Alright. There's one cylinder rebuilt. Just got 2 more to go for this machine. I got 1 more just like this, and then I got the big one. But let's hook some air to it and see if we can't make it run in and out. The place I worked, they actually had a I think it was a 3-phase electric motor thing that had a stand. You put cylinders in it. It had quick connects and fittings. You could hook up to just about any kind of cylinder, and you could actually power it up and then deadhead it and see what pressure it got up to. That one works. Oh yeah. Let's get back here so you can really get an eye on it. Go. So there's one cylinder done. Nothing to it, guys. These hydraulic shops, well, anything anymore costs a fortune to have done, especially something specialized like this, because not everybody can rebuild their own hydraulic cylinders. Luckily, I learned a long time ago how to do it. On a particular job I was on, we had to tear down cylinders and rebuild them all the time, but like big cat excavators and dozers and backhoes and John Deere, Case, we would just buy a kit. You gave them the model and serial number of the machine, they gave you a kit for that particular cylinder. It had everything you needed, and usually, and then some. They had other little O-rings and backup washers because some cylinders had changed throughout the serial number range. So they basically gave you a kit and you used what you needed out of it, and then you had a bunch of stuff left over, which I always hung on to because you never know if you need them for another piece of equipment. I did that for several years, and then I actually went to work for a company that's all they did was rebuilt cylinders. We made cylinders, repacked them, and you would literally just take them apart. You had a mic, that was your main tool. You mic'd them out, whether they were metric or standard seals. Then you went and we had like a file cabinet, or kind of like the Dewey Decimal system, had bunches of racks, and you just went through or drawers, and you pick out the O-ring you needed, the backup washer you needed, the seals, you know, whatever you needed, and then you came and took the cylinder apart, cleaned it up, repacked it, and it was good to go. Fortunately, I just take, like I said earlier, I take the rod over, which sometimes they need the rod, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they don't, but they got to have the gland for sure and that little end piece, and they can usually get me the cylinders, the parts for the cylinder that way. And then I pay them 40 or 50 bucks. I come home, I do this, and boom, they're rebuilt, and I save about 100 bucks per cylinder, maybe more. Some cylinders cost a lot of money to repack, and others not so much. This one probably wouldn't have cost much to repack, but that's just money I saved. So now you know how to do it, or at least on one of these. And I've got lots of other cylinders in here that I'm going to be, and I mean lots. I've got all these cylinders. Now that's an air cylinder, but I still want to make sure it works, and if not, I'll repack it. This cylinder and that cylinder actually work and don't leak, so I really don't have to rebuild them. I'm not sure about them two yellow cylinders. They might actually work too. This one I know does, but a lot of these others, especially that tie rod cylinder, they all have to be repacked. So I'll be disassembling them in other videos and cleaning them up, and then I'll go get the parts, and then I'll come back and make a video and show you how to repack them. But you get the gist of it. It's not hard. You need very minimal tools. You don't have to have these, but they do make life a lot easier, especially when you start getting into some of the bigger ones, because you got to basically turn them inside out, put them in, and let them rewrite themselves. So here's the this is the gland for the big cylinder, the tilt cylinder on that same machine, and there's the piston for it, and it's steel, which I got a lot of cleaning up to do on them. And then this is the stuff for the mate to this that I've already disassembled so that I could go get the proper parts, which are actually right here. So with that being said, that's going to be the end of this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Keep an eye out on my channel. I'm going to be making some more videos of doing more cylinders, and I might even make one installing them in this machine, because I'm ready to get them. Once I get them repacked and in here, then I can go have lines made, and I can actually put this thing to work, because it doesn't take much to put the loader arms back on here. I've got the pins and stuff. The biggest thing is going to be getting lines routed to where they actually work. That's it for now, guys. Go check out my channel. I just posted a video of a little electric pump that I did a collaboration with an Amazon company for. It's a pretty neat little pump. It's going to really come in handy, especially for stuff like this and that machine. I can suck the oil out, I can pump new oil back in it, and other things that have bigger tanks, I can clean it out, I can suck out old diesel. So go check out that video, and if you haven't already, like, subscribe, comment. If you have any comments on this, say, hey, you did that wrong, or that ain't gonna work, leave a comment. I don't care. Good criticism, bad criticism, it doesn't matter to me. I'll answer any questions the best I can. So with that being said, I hope y'all Stick around for my other videos, and I will see y'all on the next one. Later.